Good night. I'm glad to see you all joining us. Got a few things on my mind, so strap in here. Because I'm asking a question tonight. I'm seeing when we are discussing our issues, black people, I have seen more people lately trying to do black and disabled, black and Latino, black and female. That one right there is most disgusting. Black and every time we turn around, it turns to a situation of black and. This dilution, this idea that the only way we can discuss black people, or the only way we should discuss black people, is in context to everyone else. Black and illegals. And every time I'm turning around now, I'm seeing that being discussed. I'm seeing people trying to do that. As we have gone to greater lengths to assert our own individual agenda, it's become more of a fight of individuals trying to latch it to something else. So I'm asking a question, a simple question here tonight, which is, what is it? What do black people owe other groups the protections that we fought for? When you take a look, the only progress that's been made is what we fought for. So do we owe any other groups? Do we owe them the protections that we fought for ourselves? Let me go ahead and get Moses 7. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Black, let's get something clear here. Black American descendants to USA do not owe anyone. Black Americans descended to USA do not owe anyone a helping hand, because Black Americans have been fighting for justice for everyone. And nobody have ever gave a helping hand for Black American injustice fight. Let's get that very clear. Black Americans are not part of CARICOM. Black Americans are not part of the anti-Asian fight. Black Americans are not part of any other group's fight. But Black Americans are always fighting for other groups. Let's get one thing clear. Cash reparations in the sum of $22 trillion and more, specifically and only for Black American descendants to USA. And that's my piece.
50 trillion.
All right, thank you very much for weighing in on that. Definitely. You raised a very good point there. Black people in America, the descendants of slaves, we have fought a long time to get benefits, protections that have assisted other people. But when we go around the world, when you go to South America, Latin America, the African continent, we don't have those same protections there. We don't have those same protections. The Asians about it. We don't have those same protections, that same esteem. We don't have that.
That ain't the man contract.
Let me go ahead and get Tommy Strong. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, P. Family, how you doing, brother?
Glad to speak to you here, brother. What's on your mind?
Just to answer the question, do black people owe other groups the protections we fought for? Emphatically, no. And, we've gotten to a point where it is actually ludicrous to even think that we do. We're the only people on the planet that have been asked to be the political and social pillars of every group on this planet, and we've never gotten anything in return. So as our brother Tariq Nasheed always says, people got to hold their own nuts. I have no sympathy for any other group. I don't care if they're melanated or not, that is struggling. They need to do what our ancestors did and what we continue to do, and that is rely on their self, build their self up, and face the seemingly insurmountable odds of white supremacy. We don't owe anybody any damn thing. We're the only people that are owed, and we're going to collect on whatever debt we are due.
Well, what do you think? Let me ask you a question about that then. Do you think that's going to alienate us with our allies?
Well, I don't believe that we have any genuine allies. I've always said that if we did have any allies, white supremacy would have been abolished a long time ago. Because we, as a small group, we've been given white supremacy pure hell. If we had but one group of allies, white supremacy would have been overthrown. So I don't think we have any allies, Brother Jason.
I think that's a very good way of putting that. Like I say, if we had a phalanx of that now, if we had backup on it, maybe that would be a little bit different at this point here. Let me ask you one last question here, since you had a moment to think that over. Then, are you worried about a lack of support? When Joe Biden got into office, he told us that we better work with Latinos. So one of the things we hear is that we have to support other people in this regard, or we're going to have a lack of support, I guess is what they're trying to say here. Are you worried what would happen under those circumstances?
Not at all. Not at all. Again, this is just a credit to who we are as foundational Black Americans. We're the only people on the planet currently that built not just a country, but a superpower from scratch. I don't think that we need any help because, again, every group on this planet, especially, when you start talking about the Latinos, most of whom are white Latinos, let's be very clear, they have been trained, they have been conditioned, you know what I'm saying, to be anti-Black anyway. So any form of quote unquote help that they have to offer us is ultimately going to end in undermining. So I don't trust them. I'm sorry, I just don't trust them.
All right. Well, thank you very much for going ahead and weighing in on that, brother. We appreciate that. And definitely, like I say, that's going to be one of the things to watch out for here. It could be hard. It can be hard here. I'm asking a question tonight. Do Black people owe other groups the protections that we fought for? What do we owe them? What exactly do we owe them? Do we owe them anything at all? Should they get to benefit from that? That's the question I'm asking. Okay, Adonis, you can go ahead and speak.
Hey, Jason. Hope you're having a good Thursday. But to answer your question, no, I feel like they owe us everything because a lot of those other groups sat back during the civil rights movement when Black people were being brutalized and hung and beat by police, and they sat back and they wanted to be counted as white. And now all of a sudden, we are supposed to have civil rights and affirmative action, things that don't benefit foundational Black Americans. They sit back and they reap those benefits, and then they always come in and insert themselves as a buffer class, like in the community and stuff. So I think that if anything, they owe us.
Well, definitely that's been one of the things that some folk have been saying here is that we are owed that. Let me find out here from you then. What do you think they owe us?
I think that they owe us, for starters, they owe us respect. And also think that they owe us basically, I feel like Black people should get, preferential, treatment when it comes to hiring and when it comes to, reparations and things like that. But when it's basically about owing us, it's not so much that they necessarily owe us other than, tremendous respect. I think they need to learn how to fall back and learn how to stop basically siding with white supremacy, because when they come to this country, they're on team white supremacy. They aren't like our allies. They are not our friends. If anything, they're more of our enemies because these immigrants come here and they make things hard for foundational Black Americans. Like immigration really hurts us.
Well, certainly I can understand why you would say that. And they might try to say something a little bit different here. What do you say to the folks who say that they were a part of building this along with us and they've been partners with us all this time?
Excuse my language, but I don't give a damn what they say. They didn't build shit. They came here, and the only reason why they're here is because of the opportunities that foundational Black Americans gave them. They wouldn't be here if things were still the way they used to be. They came here to benefit and to siphon resources off and send it back to their home country. They don't belong here.
All right, thank you very much for weighing in on that tonight here. So I'm asking the question, do Black people owe other groups the protections that we fought for? And by the way, I want to also include into that anybody who says Black and hyphenated. So that is Black and LGBT. When folks start playing that little game, when you start looking for ways to distance yourself I also want to find out from folks here, while I got you all listening here tonight, I want to find out, are there those of you who think that's dangerous, this hyphenation, or anybody who tries to put a suffix on blackness? When you have folks saying things like black female, black LGBT, black disabled, I want to ask you all, do you think that's dangerous? Do you think that is a dangerous habit, a dangerous step, a dangerous tactic to use? That when they identify as black, people who identify as black and then stick a hyphen on it. I had shared a post earlier today on Twitter, and it was from a woman who was breaking her arm, patting herself on the back because they were saying that she had been promoted to be the first black woman to be a full professor at North Carolina State. Well, and congratulations on, your congratulations on that. But by the same token, my question here is, all right, what is that supposed to mean exactly? Where's the benefit that we get from that? What exactly is it you're trying to gain or trying to receive by saying that? What exactly is it that you're trying to receive? Because when you start hyphenating these things, when you start making a distinction, as if there's some distinction between, different factions of society, that it's not a win for everybody, that's the first step I see is in saying, I've got a status that runs parallel to the dominant society. We're in a group of our own. And somebody who is looking to do that, that's a problem. That is a problem. Because right now, one of the things that we take a look at, while all this talk is going on about, whether or not they are people who are Aboriginal or not, I'm going beyond that because I'm really asking about who's on the same page, who has the same agenda. We have groups among us who don't, and they're looking to benefit off of the black struggle while trying to get individual benefits for themselves. So they can run up to somebody and say, well, you see, you need to give me something beyond what you give these black folk because I'm not just black, I'm black and LGBT. I'm not just black, I'm black and female. I'm not just black, I'm black and an immigrant. I'm not just black, I'm black and. And what I'm saying is that is not what our ancestors fought for. That's not what we fought for. So that's why I'm asking, do we owe these other groups, and that includes individuals who wish to hyphenate themselves or give themselves suffixes in black society, do we owe them the protections that we fought for? Did Dr. King get out there and march so that you could sit up here and apply for some professorship and claim you're a black female? That that's what it is? That your blackness is not enough? That you need to get some special accommodation for being a black female? Is that what Malcolm X was fighting for? Huey Newton, Eldridge Cleaver, Medgar Evers? Is that what they were fighting for? And for those of us who are younger here, these are questions you have to ask yourselves. You have to ask yourselves this because right now, the Biden administration is allowing in as many illegals as they can, and they're dropping them off. They're putting them on planes and dropping them off in black cities. Even the governor of Texas, they're picking them up and dropping them off in D.C. Now, he's not dropping them off in Delaware. He's not dropping them off in Biden state. He's dropping them off in D.C. I suppose it's supposed to be okay, that's the nation's capital. But they're not dropping them in white areas. They're dropping them specifically where we are, to have a specific effect where we are. And they're getting all kinds of benefits. They're getting all kinds of protections. They're getting all these things. And this is a direct result of what we've done. So people tell you that it runs parallel to that. So that's the hell of a thing right there, especially when you have a situation where these other groups they're getting protections and benefits that we've never received. We're the ones who've done all the work for it, but they're getting protections and benefits that we ourselves never received. that we ourselves have never gotten, that we ourselves are still not privy to. Remember, in California, for example, remember I told you about the sheriffs. The illegal aliens don't get their cars impounded there if they don't have insurance. These sanctuary cities, black people do not. Hell, black folk are still subject to no-knock warrants. You would think that the news would be filled with a bunch of illegal aliens being victims of no-knock warrants. You would think that. You'd think that, and you'd be wrong. Now, you'd be logical to suspect that that's the way the math should work out. And yet, isn't it amazing? With an unparalleled number of illegal aliens, you don't see them sitting up here showing up on the news behind getting their doors kicked in. Then they're running all kinds of schemes, scams, drugs, human trafficking. When they talk about human trafficking, for those of you who don't know, that's the new word for pimping. They used to call it pimping. Now they call it human trafficking, sex trafficking, to try to make it similar to drug trafficking. We used to just call it pimping and hoeing, but now when they want to try to see a way if we can, it's one of these enhancements. So now it's no longer called that. Okay, well, the most sex trafficking is happening among the illegals, and yet you don't see them kicking in doors and rounding them up by the thousands. You don't see that happening. You know why? Because that's what it means to have sanctuary. That's what it means to have protections. The laws don't apply to you. And if that sounds curiously familiar to the way in which you hear white supremacy described, yeah, you're absolutely correct. That's exactly the way it is described there. It's something that's being used there where you're beyond the scope of the law. You get protections beyond that. Black folk are still waiting to see it, and yet you can get protections beyond that. As long as you're not black, you can get protections beyond that. So that's why I'm asking the question here tonight: is that do these other folks have a right to the same protections that we fought for here? Do they have a right to that? Do they have a right to see do they have a right to the protections that we fought for our people? That they can just saunter in and have that. And some folks will say that's divisive. You know what? I've said for years now, that's exactly the point of it. What do we have to show for all of these decades of including everybody else? What do we have to show for that? Everybody loves talking about a minority coalition when it benefits them, but by the way, what do we have to show for that? Including in the areas where your so-called minority coalitions are running things, what do they have? When do they show that that's a benefit to anyone besides themselves? Other than that, you can't find that. Go ahead and unmute yourself here, L.A. Ferguson.
Yes, sir.
What's on your mind?
Well, I just think it's just to answer your question. I honestly think that these other people, these other immigrants and stuff, these illegal immigrants and stuff, I think they really do deserve it. Because for one, they had the better mindset to actually take advantage of the system, where we as black folks, as a people, we didn't. And those that did, it became millionaires. So I mean, that's just my take on it.
You stupid as hell.
Okay, let me find out here. Who are the people that you're referring to when you say they became millionaires? What do you mean?
I would say like Dwayne Wade, basketball players, football players, baseball players, that are African American.
Okay. Let me find out here. Can you tell me at what point in America, past or present, have the descendants of slaves received the same treatment that illegals or immigrants received?
Make it a little easier.
Well, I don't think it was ever that time in history. But then again, back when
How about now?
We didn't even need the help. All we had was each other.
Niggas
Right, I'm talking
really
about how about
dumb.
now, though?
How about now? Yes.
So you think that black people are treated the same as the immigrants and non-descendants of slaves?
Yes, I do.
He's stupid as hell.
Okay, can you show me your proof? Show me in what way we are treated the same.
As far as the quote unquote white man is concerned, we're all the same.
This motherfucker's stupid as hell.
Okay, if they consider us to be all the same, then why is it that they give such accolades to immigrants then, if they consider us to all be, quote, the same?
Well, when you start talking about that, then you have to start talking about party affiliation.
What?
Well, no, sir, regardless of party affiliation, when you take a look in the media, you take a look in Hollywood, they've certainly been skewed towards that. When you take a look at academia, when you take a look at politics, regardless of party, they have certainly made it very skewed towards immigrants, both Democrats and Republicans.
But more so Democrats than Republicans, though.
Well, that's kind of splitting hairs, though, because if you're going to, let me find out here. When you say more Democrats than Republicans, what do you mean specifically when you say that?
Well, what I mean is this: we have a Democratic president in office right now,
And
so like you said, there has been a great deal of large quantity of illegal immigrants and illegal immigrants coming into the country. That's not a coincidence. That's a purpose. That's a plan.
Okay, well, that's absolutely, that's true. However, we've seen the same thing the entire time. That's not really rooted toward Democrats because, for example, when you take a look at Republican states, the Carolinas, Georgia, Mississippi, you can see I'm from the southern United States. You see busloads of illegals out there doing the crops by the thousands, doing big, huge school buses full of them. People who live in those states, you can see it now for decades. Big, huge school buses. If Nikki Barnes were able to get the kind of deference and willful blindness that these white farmers, white contractors get with their illegals, that man would be richer than Bill Gates, if he were still alive. He'd have been richer than Bill Gates if he could have gotten that type of blind eye turned. So these are in Republican states. Forget the federal government. We're talking about the local level. And by the way, most of your states have laws against that kind of thing, but the states themselves are not enforcing it. So we don't even need to go as far as the federal government. If you want to talk about party affiliation, the Republican Party doesn't have a problem with it. And Texas can round up all of them if they want, but the truth of the matter is it's already against the law in these states to be employing illegals like that. It's already against the law. So why is it the Republicans are not enforcing it?
I want to quote something that I heard yesterday from a YouTuber, and he said that there are just as much crooks and bad people in Democrats than they are just as much, if not more, in the Republican state. And I agree with that because a lot of conservative people that I hang around with and stuff like that, we always talk about things like a discussion like this. We always talk about why is it that a lot of these Republican states, they allow people to work towns and stuff like that. They allow the illegals to be there and work illegally and not pay taxes and stuff like that because they're getting a kickback from other entities and stuff like that. We're always talking about that. And that's what, and this is where we all need to get out there and vote.
Well, we'll come back to that in a moment.
Yeah.
The real issue is when you take a look at it, when we try to draw these distinctions between the two parties, what you realize is you're actually dealing with two entities that treat you exactly the same. They just use different means to be able to accomplish the same goal. So you have one who cozies up to you while doing this policy, and then you have another one who is more standoffish with you, but doing the exact same thing. But you recognize that no matter who is quote unquote on sitting in the driver's seat at the time, no matter who quote unquote is in charge, you're getting the same result regardless.
Right.
Now you said something that's a little bit curious here. Would you identify yourself as a conservative?
I'm more of a Christian conservative.
Okay, but you identify yourself as a conservative. Why?
Well, because I have more so traditional values, marriage before children, uh, uh, some other issues that I really don't want to say out loud because I don't want to be banned.
But he's so proud. He's so proud of me. He doesn't want to say it out loud. All right.
Well, it's just the point of being banned.
Okay. Well, unless it's something criminal, I don't think that would occur. But
well, I mean, it's referring to like the gay community, the LG, whatever community and stuff like that. I'd rather not say nothing about
well,
that.
certainly, like I said, I can understand that. The real is when it comes to politics or political parties, though. Do you identify as conservative with that also?
Wow.
Do you feel there's one that's more closely aligned with your beliefs?
Well, it's not so much as a political party, just more so it's just a mindset more than a political type of thing. I agree. What's the difference? It's traditional values as opposed to what's on the agenda of Republicans and what's on the agenda of Democrats. It's all about more so traditional values and beliefs.
Okay. Well, the reason why I say that is because when you originally got on and everything, when I hear people making a comparison between illegals who are part of a government agenda and then comparing their quote unquote work ethic, as it were, to black people or what they've been able to supposedly accomplish, the bottom line is we can't compare their experiences to ours in any way because no one's thrown any stumbling blocks in their way. There are no Jim Crow laws to target them. There are no miscegenation laws to target them. There never have been. They don't have any history of historical oppression against them. And most importantly, we know that they have a favorable environment because they are risking life and limb to get here. You don't do that for an environment that you know is going to be adverse to you. You do that to go to a place that's better than the one you were in. So that's your first clue that's not the case. That's your first clue that's not it.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate that. Let me get LB. You can go ahead and mute yourself.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Black. Appreciate you for letting me on. So the obvious answer is no. And I can point to two things. The first, in entertainment, you see our prominent black heroes getting played by immigrants, for one. And then for two, it don't matter if you're in a Republican or Democrat, they still got the same thing. Like Austin Shane.
Yeah,
Austin Shane is a Republican out in Michigan who's trying to change Black History Month after he were to unseat Gretchen Whitmer. So, as far as like, and then if you go down the lower scale, when they come in and, they flee their country, they come here, they get all the benefits off our backs and all that, then they got nerve to wag their finger at us, talking about we're lazy and all that. And I just don't think that's fair now. And no, they should not get the same kind of, they should not get anything remotely close to what we fought for.
Well, certainly that's all the more reason for us to keep our eye on people Because really what this is about, and I've said it for years, this is about testing our resolve and seeing whether or not we actually have an agenda. And let's be very, very clear, this is not about hating on anybody else. This is about defining who and what we are. This is about defining who and what we are, because we have spent a long amount of time here trying to keep people happy. We spent a long amount of time here trying to get people to feel like they're part of a coalition. And in reality, if it's at best, it has made people apathetic. At worst, it's made them hostile. And I think that we'll get a lot more respect when we clear up exactly what we're willing to say yes to and what we're willing to say no to. Thank you very much for going ahead and weighing in on that. By the way, here, for those of you who are, I want to thank you all for listening here tonight. We got a lot of people in here, so thank you very much for weighing in. For whatever reason, I'm getting some folks here who are not seeing me for whatever reason. And I don't really know why that's happening, except it sounds, I don't know, maybe Twitter's sitting up here, blocking my visibility too as well. But there are folks who, I think if you try to request to speak, go ahead and try to request to speak now, because for whatever reason, folks, I got some folks saying that they're trying to search for me on Twitter Space, and it's not showing it. So definitely, if you've been having trouble with that, let me know here. It's like I say, it's one of those things, you're going to run into hostility where that's involved. And Black people speaking to each other about our interests is always going to be seen as a problem. As long as we're saying what they want us to, that they're okay with that. We start talking in a different direction, all of a sudden they start having trouble with us. Let me get a Shantae. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Meet you. But I just want to say it's a pleasure. And I thank you for everything that you do.
All right. Thank you very much for weighing in on that. I appreciate it. I do what I can here. If nothing else, I just try to make a way for us to be able to communicate with each other. And that's the real big difference. They co-opted all of our old Black media, so Johnson Publications, Essence, you name it. They co-opted all of those, took them over, and as soon as they got in charge of it and got influence over them, they started telling you that there's no need for a Black agenda and there isn't any need for ourselves. So therein lies the real issue, is that we've been told that we don't have any issues. That's what they're telling us. We don't have any issues, which is essentially saying that we don't have any problems, which is what everybody's trying to say now. If you all remember last year, for example, because things are going to get real awkward here. If you remember last year, I told you all that going into 2022, you're going to see Joe Biden saying, "Oh, the pandemic is over. We don't have to worry about any. We don't have to worry about any more lockdowns and all those mandates and stuff." And I told you last year that was going to happen. Now they're going to tell you everything is okay and everything is fine. Now that we've let them know that that's not really what we're checking for, they're going to pivot again now, which is why you're hearing so much about student loans. You're hearing so much about student loans now, and they're going to tell you that that's reparations. So anybody out there who got a college loan because they're trying to pull the wool over Black folks' eyes, that's going to count and constitute yet another protection that we fought for. And are your white college grads who are going to get their, in the event they get their student loans forgiven, are they going to give us credit for that? You tell me. Are we going to get credit from them for that? When they finally, after all these decades of them not being able to reform the student loan system and not being able to get any changes made, if Black folks sit up here and get that accomplished, you tell me, the people who benefit from that, are they going to stand up and beat the drum and talk about, we really owe Black society for being able to do this because it was them who spearheaded this? Are we going to see anything like that? Or is it going to be just saying, well, that was going to happen anyway, or whatever the case may be? See, there's a whole bunch of folks who are going to benefit from this, and a whole bunch of people who are going to get things from this, from what we do. It's not like it's over. The 1960s were just the 1960s, but it's not like we've come to the end of our viability or our ability to get things done. There are a whole bunch of folk who are still using us for that because we are the only people with a legitimate grievance of any kind. Nobody else has an actual legitimate grievance. We are the only people who actually have any type of legitimate grievance whatsoever. Nobody else has got one. Let me try this more succinctly. Ain't nobody else got no problems. Nobody else has got any problems. They came from a good situation. They're trying to get to a better situation. They don't have any problems. We're the only ones who actually have a problem. We're the only ones who actually have a problem. We're the only ones who actually face a headwind. We're the only ones who actually get that. When you talk to your black immigrants who come over here, they'll be quick to let you know when they're around white folk. The white folk let them know, oh, you're not like the others. They let them know real fast, you're not like the others. You're different. So to the black conservative who was speaking here earlier, you know, when the immigrants talk to white folk here, they let them, that includes black immigrants also, when they talk to them, they let them know, oh, you're different. You're not like them. You're not the same. They make that clear. I don't make that distinction. White society does. The rest of them let them know that there's something different about these descendants of slaves and aboriginals. There's something different about foundationals. There's something different about them. Something different. It doesn't matter what you do. Let's be very, very clear. You got as many black people getting locked up on their way home from work. We're the folks who have to pass a litmus test for those kind of things. You know, you get arrested on the way from work. This dude who sat up here and was messing with Mike Tyson on the airplane, the media actually gave his ass the Harambe treatment. They actually gave him the Harambe treatment. They actually took a look at this white man's criminal record. Oh, hell, what do you know? Getting arrested all over the damn place. That kind of puts it in context. And that it actually is relevant in his case. This isn't somebody sitting there talking about, well, his mama got arrested for smoking heroin, doing heroin back in the 70s. That's not what they're saying. You see, when it comes to us, all of a sudden things change. When it comes to us, we get treated differently. So we're just at this point saying, okay, let's embrace that difference if everybody wants to play it that way. But then for people to come in later and say, okay, well, why is it you want to make a distinction? We want to make a distinction because we've done a lot of work to benefit a lot of people. We've done a lot of work that has benefited a lot of people. And the minority coalition thing never got popping like everyone was thinking. And yet we're still treated as if we owe other people protections that we fought for. So I'm going beyond just saying, reparations. I'm saying, by the way, all these protections that all these other groups get that we fought for, by the way, because we get real silent when people say those kind of things. We get real silent when they start making comparisons. But by the way, do we owe them? Do we owe these other groups the protections that we fought for? Do we owe them that at all? And I'm not talking about in a political sense. I'm talking about in a personal sense. Is this something that you adopt as your own code of conduct? Do you owe other people protections simply because? Do you owe them protections simply because? And this is a new language here because the civil rights generation taught the world to sit up here and tolerate that. The civil rights generation taught the world that we were here to be their saviors. And it sounds strange to the rest of the world to hear us saying, yeah, we're not interested in liberating the world. It was so important for us to make that distinction for people to see that. Because now they're learning a new vocabulary. The new vocabulary that they're learning here is that, yeah, we don't have to do that. We're not here to save the world. When we start talking about reparations being based on lineage, well, that's saying, yeah, we're not here to cure racism. We're not here for that. That's that savior of the world stuff. We're not doing this to save the world. We're saying it's time to focus on us. It's time to focus on us, and if other people benefit, well, that happened. But as far as making that the priority, which is what we've been maneuvered and jostled into, because what we've really been taught is that we can't get anything accomplished on our own. That's what they keep telling us. You don't have enough support on your own. You can't get anything accomplished up on your own. And the truth of the matter is that there's nothing that we've gotten with anybody else. Everything we've gotten, we did get on our own. We got all that by ourselves. I want to remind you all here, if you go back to the 1970s, with Joe Colombo, I'm talking about the mafia, the Colombo crime family. Joe Colombo, when they founded the Italian Civil Rights League. Well, that tells you a lot right there now, doesn't it? That tells you a lot. And they had so much influence that they were able to get the script for The Godfather. For those of you who don't remember the movie The Godfather, everybody loves that movie. But they had so much pull. And we're not talking about the NAACP at that point. They've been around for decades and decades. They were able to just jump up and then all of a sudden get Hollywood they couldn't use the word mafia in the movie The Godfather. If you want to know why it is, the movie The Godfather didn't have that. It's because the Columbos got together and said, yeah, you can't use that. Told Francis Ford Coppola in the studio, yeah, you can't use that. We're not doing that. Now, when's the last time black folk had the ability to do that? It took decades to get on a bus. When did we ever have the ability to do that kind of thing? So everybody, and that was an outgrowth of what we have done there. So everybody else has been able to get those kind of protections off of us, making it popular or making it possible to be able to do so. We don't have any similar stories. Try this a different way. You can talk about Harvey Milk all you want to. Where was the benefit for that from us? Where's the benefit of that for us? What do we have to show for that? And nobody else worries about what protections black people don't get. For example, when Joe Biden was running around talking about, we need to have protections for Asians. You notice you didn't hear the Asians say, wait now. What about black folk? They've been here longer. You can't do something just for us. Remember? They didn't say, wait a minute now, you can't just do something just for black people now. You got to do something for all of us. You got to do something for everybody. You can't just do it just for them. You got to do it for us too. You got to do it for them too. Can't just do it just for us. You got to do it for all of them. We're a minority coalition. It wouldn't be right now. You got to include black folk and disabled people. And what about the Asian LGBT? You can't leave out the Asian LGBT now, can you? What about Asian women? Asian disabled? Asian immigrants? You can't leave that out now. We're here to fight for everybody. No, that didn't occur. When you hear them talking about the Equality Act, they look and say, wait now. No, you can't just do that now. We got to do something for black folk too. We got to do something for black people too. And part of the issue here I want you all to understand is that we've made people feel safe expressing hostility towards us. We've made people feel safe sitting next to us while they articulate open hostility. And this is the first generation of black folk really since the World War II generation. And with the Civil Rights generation, I'm only going to count certain segments of that. But we're the first real generation that's really stood up and said, we're not really going to tolerate people expressing hostility towards us and then sitting right next to us. We made a bunch of people feel very, very comfortable talking to us. The civil rights generation made folks comfortable for decades, talking to us crazy, exploiting us, using us, taking our suffering, taking our cause as their own, because they wanted to be seen. They wanted to be seen. They wanted to be accepted. This is the first generation that's really not fighting for quote unquote acceptance in that way. This is the first generation that's really not fighting somebody to be accepted. No, can we be seen? So we're not afraid to start asking some questions here that some other folks thought was going to be sacred cows. And we're saying, no, do we owe them for the protections that we fought for? You see, before now they were obsessed with sexual access. These are some good questions to ask. Let me see here. Poison Rican. There's an interesting name. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, try again. Poison Rican. You asked to speak. You can unmute yourself. Okay, Poison Rican is trying to figure out how Twitter Space works. You asked to speak there. And by the way, if there were other folks, I do know, like I said, I'm not showing I have requests to speak, although it has been showing me. I know that some of you have been trying to, so I don't think that's happening, because I got it's showing 14 people asked to speak, and yet all I got is Poison Rican up here. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, because it's been doing that for me since day one, by the way. It's been doing that for me since day one. So if you're somebody who is asked to speak, or you have your hand up to speak tonight, do me a favor, will you? Do me a favor and send me a DM if you're on my friends list. If you're on my friends list and you've asked to speak and I haven't clicked on you, it's because I don't see you. So just so I can have some accounting for that, I just want to make sure about that. So go ahead and send that to me if you can. Go ahead and send that to me. Poison Rican, I don't know what happened here, but like I say, I definitely don't see anything there going on. But certainly to everybody here who's tuned in tonight, I've been asking a basic question. Do Black people owe other groups the protections that we fought for? Because there are so many people who have benefited off of what we've done. There are so many people who have benefited off of what we have built. There's so many people who have benefited off the fact that we made it a lot harder. We made it a lot harder to be able to practice white supremacy. And a lot of other folks who have not been as committed to stopping it as us have benefited from it. But I'm asking the question here, are we obligated to allow them to eat off of the table that we spread? Are we obligated to do that? Do we owe other groups the protections that we fought for? Are we obligated to do that? Is that something that we should feel obligated to? Is that something that should be a stumbling block? Because let me tell you, there'll be some folks who say that when they're in Black company. Well, of course we're not. The problem comes when they leave. And as soon as you get them in a room full of non-Black people, or in a room full of white folk, all of a sudden it becomes we are the world, and a few folks might become conservatives or liberals, and then all of a sudden they start getting a lot more watered down in what they're saying. Let's be very, very clear. When we talk about the protections that we fought for, I'm not just talking about fought for, I'm talking about protections that we died for. Will someone show me the immigrant uprisings against white supremacy in America? I'll wait. If there's anybody out there right now who has a list of immigrant uprisings against Black people, let me know. I'd like to find out. You can let me know here if you have a list of those. I'd like to find out where our immigrant uprisings were, because I can name for Black people. I'm trying to figure out where the others were. Because, by the way, if they were really that pivotal, and if we really had that type of camaraderie, for the folks who try to say that Irish people were more oppressed than black people. Please show me where the Irish fought alongside black people against white supremacy. For anybody who tries to say that the Irish historically were seen as non-white, the Italians historically seen as non-white, less than white. Okay, I get that part, but when you try to make a comparison between their situation and black people, then first you need to show me where they historically stood up or fought alongside black people against white supremacy if they were allegedly victims of white supremacy too. If they were seen or viewed as non-black also, or non-white also, or less than white. And by the way, historically, let me know, at what point did they fight against white supremacy? What part of the protections we have today that they fought for? What are the protections that we have today that they historically fought for? Because I can show you black people that have died for this. See, there's the difference between us and everybody else. When we talk about lynching, we're talking about black people who have died. Not having those protections, black people being killed by the state with impunity. You see, the reason that illegal aliens don't get killed by the state with impunity is because of what black people did. It's because of what the descendants of slaves and foundationals have done. That's a result of that. You didn't hear about any mass lynchings of illegals. You don't hear about that today. And you've never heard about it. Yeah, because they didn't have to get that. They didn't have to fight for it. It was already there and waiting for them when they arrived. You see, if those things had not been there, it would have been different. If those things had not been there, it would have been different. The reason why you can have so many Mexican illegals come over here is because they have protections. Those were protections that were waiting when they got here. Those were not protections that showed up after they got here. There were no mass uprisings, no mass marches, demonstrations. Those protections were already here. When you talk about building a nation and what was already set up, those were things that black folk had already prepared. When these other folk got here, all they had to do was stroll in the door and hang up their coat. Never mind the fact that you're not here legally, by the way. Don't let that get in the way. Don't let that get in the way at all. Never mind the fact that you're not here legally. Never mind the fact you're not here legally. See, black folk had never had that because, as you know, even up until under President Woodrow Wilson, until the 1960s, America didn't allow black folk from Africa to come over here in any appreciable numbers. And even to this day, necessary to get the wake-up call for the Haitians. They had to get their wake-up call. They had to get their wake-up call because they were saying the whole time that they were acting the whole time like they were just getting what they had on their own and had to be reminded, oh, by the way, oh, no, you're going to get treated differently, all right. You're going to get treated differently for certain. You're going to get treated differently for certain. Up until that moment, they didn't have an idea of that. Up until that time, they didn't have an idea of that. Now, all of a sudden, they understand. And that's what we've been saying the whole time. Everybody plays dumb about this until you stop playing dumb with them, then it turns into a different thing. So going forward, I want people to get that into their heads. Do we actually owe any other groups to benefit from the protections that we fought for when ours have come at the expense of people, men, women, children, babies being killed? Do we owe them that? This is defining ourselves as a people and saying, do we owe them those protections? When you take a look at survivors of the Jewish Holocaust, we don't benefit from their protections. They have their protections. We don't benefit from that. You don't have Jewish people in the Ukraine, for example, being treated the way black folk there are. I think Zelensky, the president of the Ukraine, I think he's Jewish. They don't have them getting treated the same way. So that's what I was saying here before about we don't get those protections. We don't get those. Those are not things that we receive. But yet we've been told that we have an obligation to lay those out for other people. So going forward, when you have these discussions, remind people about all the protections that they've got, because everybody else has got protections except us, including non-citizens. So when they come up to us and say black and, or try to conjoin whatever their agenda is to ours, stop them and say, well, wait a minute. Why do we owe you protections we fought for? Because what invariably happens is as soon as they get theirs, all of a sudden they don't know you. When they get theirs, all of a sudden they don't know you. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank all of you for joining us here on Twitter Space. The link to my YouTube channel is in the description of my profile. If you came here from YouTube, follow me here on Twitter. And if you follow me here on Twitter, consider going ahead and clicking on the link and following me there on YouTube as well. Thank you all for joining us here this evening. This concludes tonight's Twitter Space. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, brothers.
I was ran for mayor of Washington, D.C. in 2010. And I found that Washington, D.C., the nation's capital,